It looks like, truly, we're going to have this leaked report from the House Investigatory Committee at any moment. Just before we came to air, there was a report that it had been hacked already off of, I guess, the congressional website or some website, and that it's going to be put out. And that they saw in the hacked alleged report that among those who testified before the House was a woman who, though she is no longer 17, says she was 17 at the time she had sex with Matt Gaetz, and that there was money exchanged by Matt Gaetz and either this woman or other young women who were 18 or so. So there's two allegations, that he had sex with a minor and that he paid for sex with 18-year-olds and possibly with the minor as well, that he allegedly trafficked the minor by moving her across state lines, and that we're going to read about all of this, including the firsthand testimonial from this woman who is no longer 17 but was at the time. The allegation was that he had sex with her when she was 17. Then he learned after the fact that she was 17. Then he stopped the relationship. Then it resumed after she turned 18. Now, the media is in overdrive trying to prove all of this. What you need to know is that the DOJ was unable to. The DOJ walked away from any criminal charges against Matt Gaetz because it did not feel that it had credible witnesses. And I'm going to circle back to that after I show you what's happening in the media. And I am making no representation that Matt Gaetz will make it through. You heard the guys from Two Way. They think he actually might. We talked about the report in Politico, and want to correct myself. It's not that Trump spoke to the New York Times and said Gaetz has a less than even odds of being confirmed. It's that the New York Times reported that Trump has indicated that. So it's a little different. Trump didn't say it to them directly. But their reporting is that Trump also wants a fight. And he's been asking Senate Republicans to at least give his pick a shot, arguing that Gaetz is just the man to fix the DOJ. That was per Senator Kevin Cramer, Republican from North Dakota, to reporters on the Hill yesterday. So he's still in the mix, this Matt Gaetz, and the media is not going to take this sitting down. It's definitely not. So we will go through what they're putting out there for public consumption. Where did I do it? I got here. My sound bites there. They're everywhere. There's a lawyer named Joel Leopard, and he represents two young women who are not the one-time 17-year-old in question. But they're somehow connected to her and are claiming to have been at some of the parties that she and allegedly Matt Gaetz attended. And this guy went on ABC News on Monday and said the following, Sot 1.
You know how many times, how many parties your clients went to and had sex with Representative Gaetz?
Well, not all of them were parties, but approximately perhaps 10 times, 10 to 15 times, I think, was the testament about the number of times they might have had sex with Representative Gaetz. So Mr. Gaetz paid them for the tickets to come to New York for the trip. He was there with another female individual already. And so they went to Broadway shows and things like that and met him, went to the Fox News studio, I believe, and they went to Broadway shows while they're there.
What show did they see? I'm just curious now.
Pretty Woman.
About a sex worker?
I had not even thought about that.
Interesting.
Okay, so that's him saying he's got two 18-year-olds, or they were at the time, who were at drug-fueled sex parties, and that they had sex with Matt Gaetz, who brought them to New York City for this and to watch his Fox News appearance and to go to a Broadway show. That's the allegation. The only thing in there that would be illegal if true is if he paid for sex, because these two girls he's representing, he says, were of age. Drug-fueled party doesn't tell me anything. Did Matt Gaetz take illegal drugs? Did he ply women against their will with drugs? I didn't hear that. So far what I hear is potentially solicitation of prostitution. Then he went over to CNN and said more. Listen to Sot 2. This is about the 17-year-old.
When she was walking out to the pool area, she observed to her right Representative Gaetz having sex with her friend who was 17 at the time.
And on this question, she's absolutely sure.
She's absolutely certain that she observed seeing her friend and Representative Gaetz having sex against what she described as a game table of some sort.
Does your client have any idea as to whether Matt Gaetz knew
She
about
testified,
the age?
yeah, so she testified to the House that Representative Gaetz did not know her friend's age at the time they had sexual intercourse. And when he found out about her age, that Representative Gaetz stopped having sexual intercourse with her, and he only started the sexual intercourse interactions later on once she turned 18.
So then it continued again.
That's correct.
Okay. So there he is saying that Matt Gaetz allegedly was seen by his clients having sex with a then 17-year-old. The age of consent, I think in New York, is 17. The age of consent in Florida is 18. I believe they were in New York, but I guess we'll get the full vetting of exactly where they were and when. In any event, if they were in New York as he alleged in that first appearance, this person would have been at the age of consent. Okay. Then here's more from Joel Leppard, the attorney for these other two, who talked about payment and how it was handled on CNN on Monday.
He had paid also your clients for sex? He was paying for sex?
The testimony before the House was yes, that Representative Gaetz paid my client, both of my clients, for sexual favors throughout the summer of 2017 all the way to the beginning of 2019.
And how did he pay them?
Those were primarily through Venmo and PayPal payments. There was one payment through Representative Gaetz' adopted son through his PayPal.
Nestor,
That's right.
The adopted son. Payments would come there too.
There was only one payment that it was testified to.
So that's some of what we're likely to read about when we see this leaked House report, which undoubtedly will hit the presses shortly, and we'll take you through it. But so far we have him allegedly transporting a minor, a 17-year-old, across state lines for the purpose of having paid sex with her. And possibly, if any of that happened in Florida, she would have been under the age of consent. She would have been 17 when the age there is 18, which presumably would have been why in this story he stopped having his relations with her until then she hit her 18th birthday. Those are all allegations. Matt Gaetz denies them all. Now, that sounds pretty bad. Certainly doesn't sound like our next attorney general. However, if it's so bad, and if you've got all these witnesses ready to testify, why were charges not brought? And that leads me to, first of all, a great report by Molly Hemingway of The Federalist, which hit 2 days ago, November 17th, and you should definitely go to The Federalist and read it. House probe into Matt Gaetz relies on witnesses DOJ found lacked credibility. But she links in that piece to a Washington Post piece from September 23, 2022, and when it was updated. So that was the date it was hit and updated. And that is the Washington Post explaining why the DOJ did not want to charge anybody, Gaetz, in connection with any of these allegations. And the headline there is, career prosecutors recommend no charges for Gaetz in sex trafficking probe. And I want to go through it with you. Okay. This is before they had officially decided not to bring charges, but they did officially decide not to bring charges shortly after this. They say career prosecutors have recommended against charging Matt Gaetz in a long-running sex trafficking investigation, telling Justice Department superiors that a conviction is unlikely, in part because of credibility questions with the two central witnesses. It is unlikely federal authorities will charge Gaetz in connection with this probe, which focused on his alleged involvement with a 17-year-old girl several years earlier. Gaetz, 40, has repeatedly denied wrongdoing, saying he never paid for sex. He has also said the only time he had sex with a 17-year-old was when he, too, was 17. Okay. Investigators set out to determine if the congressman paid for sex in violation of federal sex trafficking laws and have examined his dealings with the then 17-year-old. People familiar with the matter have said. Earlier this year, a federal grand jury in Orlando heard testimony from associates of Gaetz's, including an ex-girlfriend. So not only did the DOJ start looking into this, they convened a federal grand jury, and it does not appear that any true bill was returned or that went anywhere. They write in the Washington Post, the ex-girlfriend, the 17-year-old, was among several women on a trip Gaetz allegedly took to the Bahamas in 2018 that has been of particular interest to the investigators. The 17-year-old at issue was also on that trip, though by that time she was already 18 or older. She's been a central witness in this investigation, but people familiar with the case say she is one of two people whose testimony has issues that veteran prosecutors feel would not pass muster with a jury. So the 17-year-old at the crux of all of this has been deemed not credible by the DOJ, by career prosecutors there. The other is a former friend of Gaetz's, Joel Greenberg. And you're going to need to listen to a thing or two about Joel. He's a former tax collector for Seminole County, Florida. You know, Gaetz is from sort of the panhandle area of Florida. He, Greenberg, pleaded guilty last year to sex trafficking of a minor and a host of other crimes as part of a cooperation deal with authorities. So this guy was on the hook criminally and then started talking about whom else he could give up to the authorities. Greenberg was first charged in 2020 with fabricating allegations and evidence to smear a political opponent. He made shit up to hurt someone who is opposed to him in politics. That's what he was already charged with and dealing with when he pleaded guilty to sex trafficking of a minor. Prosecutors continued to investigate and added charges to Greenberg's case. He ultimately agreed to plead guilty to 6 criminal charges, including sex trafficking of a child, aggravated identity theft, and wire fraud. Sounds like a very upstanding citizen. In exchange for his guilty plea, prosecutors agreed to dismiss the other 27 counts against Greenberg and recommend a term within the federal sentencing guidelines, which are usually less than they could get under the statutory maximum. If Greenberg provided substantial assistance in building other cases, prosecutors might ask a judge to deviate below the minimum required penalty, according to Greenberg's plea agreement. It was in exploring Greenberg's conduct that investigators came upon evidence. They came upon it. Could it have been from Greenberg? Potentially implicating Gaetz in sex trafficking. Prosecutors had been exploring whether Greenberg paid women to have sex with Gaetz and whether the two shared sexual partners, including the 17-year-old girl at issue in Greenberg's case. Gaetz, who represents a mostly conservative district in Florida's Panhandle, is known as a strident defender of former President Donald Trump. Why is that relevant, Washington Post? What's that doing in here? Huh? The investigation into him was opened during the Trump administration and proceeded with the approval of then Attorney General William Barr. Greenberg has been providing investigators information about Gaetz since last year. Just FYI, I am omitting all of the Washington Post's sourcing, virtually all of which is according to a person familiar with the matter. You can see it in the original report if you so choose. Then this. Greenberg's credibility would be a significant challenge for any prosecution of Gaetz, in part because of one of the crimes Greenberg admitted to, which was fabricating allegations against a school teacher who was running against him to be a tax collector. Now, we heard that earlier in the piece. Remember, I paused, I read it to you, that he was charged in 2020 with fabricating allegations and evidence to smear a political opponent. That's bad. He's got a history of doing that. Is that what he's doing to Gaetz? And then they raise it again here, saying his credibility is going to be a problem because he admitted to fabricating allegations against a school teacher who was running against him to be a tax collector. What exactly were the allegations that Greenberg fabricated? Washington Post, walk us through it. And they do. Greenberg had sent letters to the school falsely claiming that the teacher had an inappropriate sexual relationship with a student. A similar allegation to the Gaetz case. You think? Yeah. A lawyer for the school teacher commented to the Washington Post saying, no one is going to believe anything that Joel Greenberg says by itself. His statements would have to be corroborated by testimony or evidence. So that is Greenberg and this alleged victim, the 17-year-old, though there's less in this report on why the DOJ deemed her not credible. But she was deemed not credible, and so was Greenberg, the two people against Matt Gaetz and who got this whole thing against Matt Gaetz started. Are the two women that this other lawyer, Joel Leppard, the guy who was on ABC, CBS, and CNN, as I just showed you, is that lawyer connected with Greenberg at all? I don't know. Are those two young women connected with the not credible Greenberg or the not credible 17-year-old? I don't know, but they're saying they were there when the alleged sex acts happened, that they witnessed them. So I'm going to guess they know her and they're all running in the same circles. And I'm also going to guess they potentially suffer from the same credibility problems that the first two do. Look, I don't know what happened with Matt Gaetz. There's a lot around this guy, a lot. And he's also reportedly been on the House floor bragging about his libido and stamina. And, he sounds like a crude guy. There's no point in pretending otherwise. But accusing him of criminal behavior is something else entirely. And I do believe that if this DOJ had Matt Gaetz in the crosshairs, they would have done everything in their power to actually see through those charges. And the fact that they didn't, because let's be clear, while the investigation may have gotten started while Trump was still president, this is 2022 when they recommended no charges. That was Joe Biden's Department of Justice. That was Merrick Garland's Department of Justice. There is zero chance those guys would have given up on the chance to get Matt Gaetz if they thought they were anywhere close. And it's obvious this guy Greenberg could be of no help to them. What a hot mess he would be. But there must be similar problems with the 17-year-old because standing alone, just being a sex worker wouldn't do it. There'd have to be more. So we really need to take all of this right now with a hefty dose of salt, not a grain, but like a boulder of salt. Because look, these may not be credible people at all. This whole thing could be a shakedown. The guy reportedly wanted Matt Gaetz, Greenberg, to help him get a pardon, and Matt Gaetz rebuffed him. And then suddenly he's opposed to Matt Gaetz and giving up Matt Gaetz in these discussions with the cops, with the DOJ. It stinks. It stinks to anybody. Grand Canyon University, a private Christian university in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, believes that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. GCU believes in equal opportunity and that the American dream starts with purpose. By honoring your career calling, you can impact your family, friends, and your community. Change the world for good by putting others before yourself. Whether your pursuit involves a bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree, GCU's online, on-campus, and hybrid learning environments are designed to help you achieve your unique academic, personal, and professional goals. With over 340 academic programs, GCU meets you where you are and provides a path to help you fulfill your dreams. The pursuit to serve others is yours. Let it flourish. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.